It is true, I have played Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD-2D Remake, and in today's video I'm going to be going over so much information, it will blow your mind. Happy Dragon Quest Day, by the way. Unfortunately, we were not given any B-roll in time for this video, so you'll be seeing a mixture of the trailer footage and some Dragon Quest 3 HD-2D footage, so you're not looking at my face all of the time, but we're going to go and dive into all of it. So with that all being said, what is up guys, Jen here, hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to the channel. As always, got you covered with timestamps down below, so if you want to skip to a certain section of the video, feel free to do so. All I ask is you support the channel, hit that like button, and if you want to stick around for some more Dragon Quest content, then please consider hitting that subscribe button. I also urge you to get involved in the comment section down below, because if there's anything I've missed and there's something you want to inquire about, I'll do my best to answer it, though there are things that we are not allowed to talk about, but I can't mention them, so I kind of let you know if you ask a question that I can't answer. But we are going to be going over a lot of things. I'm going to be breaking this up into 3 sections, just a general game, then Dragon Quest 1 and 2. So let's rock and roll. We don't have a release date just yet, but it's still aiming for 2025. I also noticed that there was no mention of a Switch 2 version of the game, but we've got to be honest with ourselves. Dragon Quest 3 did incredibly well on the Switch. I assume that Dragon Quest 1 and 2 are going to do well as well. So I would like to see a Switch 2 version, though I don't know what bells and whistles they could include with it, because I thought it performed quite well on the Switch anyway, but we'll see about that. Now, what did I get to play? I got to play about 30 minutes of each game, diving into certain sections of those games to showcase what it's all about. Now, what you'll notice from a lot of things I'm going to say, that a lot of the quality of life that we got from Dragon Quest 3 HD-2D Remake is here. So you're looking at visuals, music, voice acting, the map, the waypoints, objectives, autosaves, and everything else in between. Now, the question and the thing that I got most about when covering Dragon Quest 3 was the first-person battles. It's exactly the same here, so for those that are not going to be buying the game because of that reason, you know, you're missing out, because these are incredible games. It harkens back and respects where it came from, and it just adds to the overall aesthetic of Dragon Quest. Now, a new thing that has been added, which I think is a great quality of life, is a shortcut button for field abilities and skills. Now, when I was trying to complete Dragon Quest 3 and get all of the treasures and find all the monsters, I was constantly going into the menu to use things like Nose of Treasure. Now with this shortcut, you hold R1 and then you can use the directional buttons, of which you can assign skills to, and it can be healing skills as well if you don't want to use the handy heal all the time. It's really good and very convenient. I hope they go back to Dragon Quest 3 and add this in, because it saves so much time, especially if you are trying to get all of the treasures and mini medals. Hey, Future Gen here, can you tell? They did actually add this feature to Dragon Quest 3 HD-2D Remake, and I did a video covering this entire update in a video, so you can find that in the top card in the right corner. Now, we'll talk about it in a little bit more detail when we go over each game, but the world maps are expanded again here in both Dragon Quest 1 and 2, and the way that we play Dragon Quest 1 and 2 is that we simply have the title menu that loads up like Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD-2D Remake, and then we pick which Dragon Quest we want to play. We can select 1 or 2. I also didn't notice that if there was any progression or save sensing of a Dragon Quest 3 save. I didn't see anything. I would assume that maybe there might be something. You might get a little bonus, but there was nothing present during this build of the game that I got to play. And I should mention, this is quite an early build, because there was a few images that were dummy images that we were shown in tutorials and stuff. So maybe a lot of things that I might talk about here may change to the final version. So let's dive into Dragon Quest 1 and that playthrough. Now, this completely skipped the intro and we were heading towards Erdrick's Cave. Now, for those that have played Dragon Quest 1, there is a lot of things that you can just skip over Dragon Quest 1 and just go straight to the end of the game and miss out a lot of stuff. It seems like a lot of that is now mandatory and part of the story and adds to the lore, because things that you can skip in Dragon Quest 1 are actually objectives to achieve here. So we were heading to Erdrick's Cave, and Erdrick's Cave was pretty expanded. It really was. It was a bigger dungeon than it was in the original version and in the Switch re-release that we got as well. Now, of course, the story was expanded once again, and this was really apparent when I entered Erdrick's Cave, because there were kind of 4 heroes, and I'm using finger wagging motions here to say heroes because that's the way the game dubbed it, and they're obviously searching for the legend of Erdrick as well. It's quite nice to see characters like this that are also searching for the legend, and they kind of split up in the cave and you can find them all about the place and get a little bit more information. So that tells me that the story is going to be expanded quite a bit. Now, I think the section of the game that was supposed to play was literally supposed to be the Erdrick's Cave segment, and then we could go off and do whatever we want. I, of course, went and explored the world map because it seemed like some of the progress was gated. I got to the next objective marker, but nothing was happening. So I just decided to look all over the map. The sparklies return and the hidden points are here as well. And the map of Dragon Quest 1, if you've never seen it in its original form, is really small, but it's quite expanded here. I did notice that there were a few new areas, just areas in general. And let me explain this. So I went from, and I'm going to try and get these pronunciations right. I don't know what version of the game I'm pulling from, but I went from the destroyed village of Dumdora to Macedo. And on the way to that, if people are familiar with the world map of Dragon Quest 1, there is a bridge you have to go across. Now, before this bridge, there was a big forest, and it was a new area to explore. It was this misty forest where you could get lost. There's treasures to find, enemies to fight. So I would assume that maybe there's a few new areas in Dragon Quest 1's world map to make it feel more expansive for you to explore and fight new enemies. Now, speaking of fighting enemies, there are more than one enemy now. So in Dragon Quest 1, because you're playing as a solo hero, you went against one enemy at a time. And now the hero has both spells and abilities to pick from. When it comes to the abilities, I'm not allowed to reveal any of the abilities, but I can certainly tell you how you can get abilities, and I think this is really, really cool. You get abilities from scrolls, and the way you can get these scrolls is you can do side quests, you can find them in dungeons, hidden locations, and you will read this scroll and it will do like a really cool animation. It reminds me of Skyrim when you kind of get the words of the dragon voice and the text comes on screen and it fades away. It does that, and then you learn essentially the ability, and that's the way this hero learns abilities, and then you can use them in battle or use certain field skills like Nose of Treasure. I did notice as well, I dived into the tactics menu and I found it odd that there was a tactics menu for just the hero. I've had this speculation that we can recruit monsters in Dragon Quest 1 or we can get various temporary party members in Dragon Quest 1, but there was a tactics menu, and the wording, whether it's because it's the beta version of the game that I played, the way the tactics menu was worded is to give actions to your party. It specifically used the word party, whether again, it's a beta thing, or we could be seeing additional members join the hero of Dragon Quest 1. I'll leave you that up to you. It's quite exciting. It'd be very nice to have monster capturing mechanic to Dragon Quest 1 just to have a bit of assistance now that there are more enemies. But apart from that, Dragon Quest 1 is very much the same with the new quality of lives that came with Dragon Quest 3 HD-2D. It seems like the world's been expanded and there are just more things to do. And yes, there are mini medals. Now, I could not find where these need to be traded in, but we got a big list of mini medals to get really unique weapons and armor and items. It's always nice to have some extras to do in Dragon Quest 1. So let's move on to Dragon Quest 2. Now, this skipped quite a bit of the story. We had the three heroes. We had, of course, our hero, we had the Prince of Cannock, and we had the Princess of Moonbrook. And I really can't remember if this was in the story, but we had to collect 3 medals from all of the towns to then gain access to the Pillar of Winds to prove our worth, essentially, that we can go on this quest. So we had to get a medal from Meadenhall, we had to get a medal from Cannock, and we had to get a medal from Moonbrook. And then we present those medals to a gateway at the Pillar of Winds to then progress to go towards the ship town. I can't remember off the top of my head. And I was thinking back, and I looked back through some of my Dragon Quest 2 footage on the Switch from the mobile version, and I was like, I don't remember this being in the game. So that tells me, again, the story has been expanded upon. There are more things to do. Of course, Dragon Quest 2's world map is expanded from Dragon Quest 1's world map, and with the expansion in general of the HD-2D version of this, there is sparklies, hidden places to find, and everything else in between. There'll be a lot of things to do in this world map, especially when you get the ship as well. I really tried to zoom on with the story, and I got all the way to the point where I was about to get the ship, but I didn't get quite to the ship because my play session was over. Voice acting was added to this, and it really adds to the dynamic of the trio here because the hero doesn't speak, but the princess and the prince do, and it just adds a new dynamic and just camaraderie of these characters. There was one point, I don't know if it was in the Pillar of the Winds, but the party decided to rest beforehand and they set up a campfire, and we learned a little bit more about the characters. So I'm really interested to see how much more has been woven into this narrative, but it was nice to see just the voice acting between them and a bit of banter between the characters as well. Now, when it comes to the Princess of Cannock, when I showed them that I got the medal, she was wearing a dress. She was wearing like a princess garb. And obviously in the trailer, we've seen her in like a adventurer attire. So I truly believe that she is going to be a fourth party member. There was no indication that that was going to happen, but seeing her in a princess dress and then seeing her in an adventure attire in the trailer leads me to believe that she either replaces while the prince kind of goes off for a little bit and does his thing, or she ends up joining the party as the fourth party member. I mean, she's prominently featured in the art of Dragon Quest 1 and 2, so that tells me she's going to be a party member going forward. I don't think we need much more confirmation than that, but I didn't get around to getting her. So I mentioned the expanded world map again, and there was the hidden spots like I've mentioned, and the sparklies and everything else in between, but I didn't see any additional areas like Dragon Quest 1. I mentioned that like misty forest that we came across. I didn't see anything like that, but again, I didn't have too much time to go everywhere as fast as I could. But I would assume, since it's based off the world of Dragon Quest 1, that we probably will see something like it. Now, to the combat of Dragon Quest 2, and for those that are asking, the prince feels less squishy. He's not as squishy as he once was. He's definitely got some utility to him, and that applies to the princess as well. They've got their own spells and abilities, much akin to what they offered in Dragon Quest 2 originally. And again, the hero here can both use skills and abilities by getting the scrolls, and they had the same animation that you get from Dragon Quest 1, which is a nice glorious little kind of confirmation of getting them, and I would assume that you get them through side quests, hidden places, and everything else in between for those scrolls. And to top things off, again, mini medals return in Dragon Quest 2. To no one's surprise, couldn't find where the offering point was for the mini medals, but I would assume it's probably hidden in a well somewhere. I think Dragon Quest 2 did have mini medals in a certain version of it, so maybe it's very similar to that. But I know that Dragon Quest 1 is the first time it's getting mini medals. So very interesting to see what they offer in terms of rewards. There was also some extra things for Dragon Quest 2 and some things that I think longtime fans will be happy with when it comes to side content and just a little bit of fun, but I can't talk about it. That's the only tease you're getting from me. But my overall experience is this is more of the Dragon Quest Erdrick trilogy with more bells and whistles and some interesting twists and turns and some features that probably have not been revealed to us just yet. I'm just making assumptions when it comes to the party menu in Dragon Quest 1 and the fourth playable character in Dragon Quest 2. All in all, I thoroughly loved my experience with these two games, with the hands-on that I got. I can't wait to play the full version. Of course, we'll be covering it on the channel. Again, if there is anything that you feel I've missed out, or maybe you want to pick my brain a little bit, then let me know in the comment section down below. I try to give you as much information as I can without crossing any lines that I'm not allowed to cross, because I want you all to be hyped about these games. I love Dragon Quest 3 HD-2D Remake, and I'm excited for these two games. So thank you for your time. Thank you to Square Enix for inviting me out to play these games, and until next time, I'll catch you on the flip side.